Good evening and welcome. I'm Roy Blitzer, and our show is Ask Dr. Business. The purpose of our time together is to provide information and insight that will help make your work life a little better. The desired outcome is you'll take it and have a career and a job that brings satisfaction and enjoyment. Like some of the academics, we took the summer off, and we're back in the fall with a new series. It's called First Jobs, and we're very fortunate tonight to have a delightful guest, Siobhan Dolen, who's going to talk about her experience in the job world and the first job she's had and how it's impacted her career to date. Please, before we even hear what she has to say, jot down the number and to think about calling in. The phone is 650-856-1491. Welcome.
Thank you, Roy.
Why don't you please tell our audience a little bit about your background? Where did you grow up? What did you study? And how did you get to do what you're doing now? By the way, Siobhan is a solutions specialist or solutions consultant.
Yes.
So she'll tell us a little bit about that as well.
Exactly. Thank you, Roy. Yes, I am actually a Bay Area native, and there's not a whole lot of us running around these days, but I was born in San Jose and grew up in Milpitas. I went to Milpitas High School, and I went to San Jose State. I tried my hardest to get into Santa Clara University, but my grades weren't good enough, so I went to
Maybe someone's watching there now and feeling terribly guilty.
I hope so. I hope so. They missed out. But anyway, I got a fantastic education at San Jose State. I was at first a business finance major. Then I changed to business marketing. Then I decided to double major in business marketing and history. And then I discovered that I didn't really like the business school so much. Sorry, Roy.
That's okay.
And I switched to a primary major of history.
Well, you seem like you knew what you wanted and got there, which is good.
Eventually, yeah. Took me a while, but I figured it out.
Talk a little bit about your professional career, and then we'll get to the inside and the inside skinning on your first jobs.
Sure. So my professional career has been circuitous. I was a technical theater minor in college, and so I worked as a professional theatric person for a while, but that tends not to pay all of the bills at the same time consistently, and I decided that I didn't want to be poor for the next 10 years.
But you were creative, you can be sure.
Sure. And it gave me a lot of very good friends and obviously a creative outlet for a very long time, and I was very grateful for my years doing that. But when I was so it was 2011, I graduated college in 2009, right in the worst of the recession, and there weren't a whole lot of jobs available for people with weird backgrounds and history majors, and I didn't want to be a teacher. So I actually decided to go get a master's degree in a field called dramaturgy at San Jose State. And although the program was fantastic and all of my professors were wonderful, I found out that I would have to be in a fellowship or a doctoral program in order to be a professional dramaturg with a salary somewhere, with a job.
Which was one of the other goals, of course.
Yes, the primary goal, in fact. So while I was working or doing my work for my master's program, I got my first job.
Oh, wonderful. Tell us about it.
So I networked my way into a cybersecurity company.
Wow.
Yes.
With a history major and a drama.
Yes.
They must have wanted you very badly.
I don't know how they were fooled to let me in the building, but they were, and I was very lucky to be employee number 50, in fact. So it was a cybersecurity startup. They had been established in the United States in 2009, so I joined 2 years after their U.S. inception. They had been an Australian company before that, and they OEM'd, and I forget what OEM stands for, I'm sure you know, but they OEM'd into the United States in 2009, I think at the RSA, the Risk and Security Association Conference.
That's what it's called.
I should know all of this, but I'm just getting back into everything, which obviously we'll talk about. But Anyway, so I started my first job while in my master's program, and
Was it a full-time position?
it was a full-time position.
Wow, you must
yes.
have lots of energy going to school and having a full-time job.
It was depleted rapidly. So I actually decided to drop out of my master's program and pursue my tech career full-time, full energy. And I guess I haven't looked back, but it's...
Well, I'm going to find out what
been a
you
route.
did on this job as soon as I remind everyone to please call in.
Yes.
Remember, the phone number here is 650-856-1491. You've tuned in to Ask Dr. Business. I'm Roy Blitzer, interviewing Siobhan Dolen, who is our guest for the new series we're running on first jobs. She's now talking about her position at a security company after having a major that was unrelated to security. So what did they have you do?
I was hired on to be an executive assistant.
Ah.
Yes. So I was hired actually on Halloween of 2011. And it was a very busy, very fantastic day.
So did that mean you were supporting someone, or did you get...
I was supporting the entire executive staff.
Wow.
Pretty much. So we had, of course, our CEO. We had a VP of finance at that time who was my direct boss. We had a chief information officer who I kind of supported, but he was mostly self-sufficient. And then we had a chief product officer. And then about a month after I joined, I found out that the company's name's ThreatMetrix. I found out that ThreatMetrix was acquiring an Australian company called Trust Defender. And all of the executives and founders from Trust Defender would be coming over to participate in the executive staff at ThreatMetrix, and I would be supporting them
wow.
as well.
That's quite a first job. Had you had some of the skills? Were you a good typist? Were you very organized?
I was
organized. Because usually the
yes.
first jobs somehow are connected to the... No, interesting.
Not in terms of the industry. So what was helpful for me actually in being a theater tech was I did a lot of stage management work. And obviously stage management is herding cats 24/7.
That's true.
And the stage management helped me develop my organizational skills, and I could, schedule everything, find out what anybody needed, solve problems, and I didn't say no to any
well, you
requests.
Must have been sought after, because usually the first job that people get, and we'll find out as our series continues, is related to knowing something about, and you really, I'm very impressed. What was it like helping, was it 7 people?
It wasn't 7 people simultaneously all the time, but it could be up to 7 people. But primarily it was our CEO, our VP of finance, and our chief product officer who needed some coordination.
And how many years did you do that?
I did it for 6 months.
Really? Yes. And then what?
So one day I asked the CEO to lunch, and I told him that I didn't want to be an executive admin forever. And I asked him, what should I be doing? Like, I don't know what I want to do, and this is a completely different world for me, because it was. So I asked what his advice was, and he was a salesman by trade. So he recommended that I join the sales team. And I said, okay, great. I've done a little bit of sales before, because the Macy's counter counts for something, right?
Well, we decided as we had our prep that I'm going to split it up sometimes in your first job and your first professional job.
Yes.
And we are now on your first professional job.
First professional job, yes.
6 months as an admin, then what?
Then I worked in the sales team. I worked for the renewals accounts. So I had about 30 accounts that I supported, and I did that job for about a year. It was almost exactly a year. And then I went and did something slightly different. And then after that, I went and did something slightly different.
So you had, your first job had 4 different subsets.
Yes. I had about 5 jobs in a matter of 6 years working there.
Wow.
Yes. But that's kind of the same story in the startup land.
Well, you knew the people, though.
Yes, well, I knew one person there when I joined. And so then obviously being a small company, I got to know everybody else. So it was nice having that insular environment so that I could make those connections and find out who I gelled with, who maybe not so much, and how I could best support the people who I was on the same wavelength
Now
with.
tell us, what did you learn? Did you learn different things from each one? Or
Yes.
was well, give us a little summary. I'm fascinated by this. As an admin, what did you learn? First of all, you learned a lot about people's lives, that's for sure.
I sure did. I probably learned things
Did you pick up laundry too and stuff like that?
No.
Well, that's
but
good.
I found out that I am an excellent sleuth.
Interesting.
Yes. So one day, our CTO lost his phone. And it was a company phone, and it had company information on
of
it.
course.
And obviously in the
May not have
security
been encrypted
space,
in those days.
he may have, because he was adept enough to do that. But even still, it's a pain in the butt to lose your phone.
Oh, no, we know that.
And I found out that there had been some bar crawling involved.
He left it at a...
Left it at one of the bars that he had been at the night before. And so I called around to each of the bars that he remembered going to, and I managed to track his steps. I called the cab company that had given him a ride back to his executive suites, and the cab company found the driver and let me call him when he started his shift, because he was a late shift driver. So I called the cabbie who had driven my CTO back to his suite, and the cabbie actually still had the phone with him. So
well, that is a good learning, a sleuth.
I found out that I'm a decent Sherlock Holmes.
Okay, what else? Probably lots of patience. Those jobs are very hard.
Yes, I was not born with a patient bone in my body, and so having to exercise that was certainly a challenge. But really what I wanted to learn was the industry. I wanted to learn what the company did. And it was...
Well, once you got into sales, I'm sure that helped.
It certainly did, because it gave me access to the technical sales consultants who eventually would morph into the solutions consultants. And so everything that I learned while working with the sales team...
Well, that's a good first job.
I'm now applying today.
Wonderful.
Yes.
I'm going to feel a little like the shopping network as I remind everyone to please call in. We have a delightful guest with great information. The phone number is 650-856-1491. Okay, so then you left the sales, and then where did you go?
After doing sales, I went into support. So I did technical support for 3 years.
Well, that certainly takes a lot of product knowledge, I'm sure.
It did, yes. It was exciting. Every day was very exciting, and getting to work with customers directly on actual problems, not just contract questions, I found that that was much more engaging and much more interesting to me. I liked the relationship building, and I liked the relationship of sales, but the selling just wasn't...
Going for the close, as we say.
Yes, it just wasn't up my street.
Well, it sounds like this first job had 4 iterations, 7 years?
6 years and...
6 years?
Yes, yes.
Lots of learning. If you had to look back, would you have done anything differently? Would you have... The fact that you went to talk to the CEO as a young... That was very smart. Would you have done anything differently? Would you have stayed longer in one job? Would you have...
Actually, yes. I would have stayed longer in support. I was offered a position to move into the operations team. And while I enjoyed that aspect of my time there, loved the team, loved my boss at the time, it was perhaps not the best career move.
Okay.
And I've received that feedback on multiple occasions, that I go for interesting work and I don't necessarily go for the best career move.
Well, that's a major learning. And the other thing I'm hoping our listeners realize is your first job should be seen as a learning opportunity. And if you take it in that way, then you'll be a positive model for us. Now,
Yes.
you learned the job, you learned the company. Did you learn anything about yourself?
Absolutely.
What was the major takeaway then?
I learned that I have a problem with stretching myself way too thin. And saying yes to everything and trying to learn everything simultaneously doesn't work.
No, that's true. Setting boundaries is a key learning.
Yes.
And usually first job, people don't want to say no, ever.
Correct. Right. Because you don't want to be seen as not trying. And I have more than a healthy spoonful of ambition. And so I had a very, very strong fear of missing out. I didn't want to say no to an opportunity that was going to turn into magic later on down the line. So
now, tell us a little bit about the skills that you're using from that first job now. Or explain a little bit what a solutions consultant does and how it applied to the first work that you did, because I think that's a key message for our listeners and viewers.
Sure. So, so the company is now called LexisNexis Risk Solutions. It's a bit of a tongue twister, but what the solutions consultants at LNRS do is they consult with a prospect or an existing customer about a specific problem or a set of problems that the customer is experiencing, more than likely around some flavor of fraud.
Do you go on sales calls?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
So your sales experience helped.
Yes, absolutely. And now the technical background is obviously the most beneficial today, but the marriage of the two is exceptionally helpful. So today we listen to the customer's current, we call them pain points, like where are they experiencing the most loss or a potential vulnerability, and then match their potential vulnerability with a product that we have in the portfolio of Lexis products. And it is a vast portfolio.
Do you work with a salesperson?
Multiple.
Or are you a territory related?
Territory, so we do have a sales team as well as a partnership team that we are within the realm of availability.
Your admin support would certainly help you there.
Certainly, yes.
I'm sure.
Getting along with many personalities was
the key issue.
Was a strong trait to have, and there have been several people, of course, in my career whom I have not gotten along well with, but I would hope that the vast majority of people would agree that I have been copacetic and
Was that a
compatible.
learning from your first job, would you say?
I would say it's more of a confirmation, and I definitely tried actively to get along with everyone.
Our parents tell us that, but we don't realize it until we get to work.
Right. I mean, you never know how you can help someone or how someone can help you. And so having a friendly foundation with someone is easier than going and asking for help from someone you know hates your guts.
That's true.
So it's better to, my mom has a perfect saying, it's better to catch flies with honey than vinegar.
Your mom's a smart lady.
She absolutely is.
You're my first guest in this series, but I am going to ask in the future if they could do any training for a first job. I think an interpersonal skills workshop would be impeccable. You take someone who's in college who maybe has some teamwork in a class assessment, but they spent a lot of time alone. Now they have their electronics, so they don't know how to get along on the job.
That's right. And in fact, what was, I guess the biggest compliment that I got consistently was that I was adept at learning. I was good at learning because I was a history major. I didn't know anything about computer science. I didn't know about,
You had
AI,
to memorize a lot of facts, though. That's for sure.
And develop an argument. History teaches you to develop an argument.
Good for you.
So what I very much appreciated in the feedback that I got while I was being offered all of these opportunities was they complimented me on my adaptability and my ability to learn and the thirst for learning.
Well, you're bringing up another question, but before I give you my insight, I want to remind everyone to please call 650-856-1491. We have Siobhan Dolen on our guest here today and tonight, and she's talking about her first job. I guess my question is, were your employers astute enough to ask questions to test for those skills way back when you had that first job?
I think so, but I didn't know that that's what they were doing. And one of my bosses, the gentleman that I worked for the longest, in my longest tenure there, which was in the support department, he had a wonderfully uplifting and confidence building comment. He said that anyone can learn a technology, anyone can learn a product. You can teach a technical aspect of something to anyone as long as they are available for the information.
And you were available.
Yes.
Now, let's talk to someone who comes to you for advice. They're having their first job. They're starting on Monday morning. What would you tell them to do?
Pay attention to the essentials.
Give us an example.
Whatever your key markers are for your position, whatever you're being compensated on, whatever your key metrics are, whether that is closing the most sales meetings, bringing in the most
We
prospects.
actually have a phone call. Excuse me for interrupting. Nosipo, this is Dr. Business. How can I help you?
Yes, I would like to ask your guest a question.
Wonderful.
This
Please.
is something that always bothers me. How does she react when she gets in some sort of trouble?
On the job?
Yes, on her job. You know, sometimes things happen, and I'd like to know how she handles it.
Thank you. I like that. I like that you asked that.
Sure. I have an example.
Please.
So one day while I was working in support, I accidentally deleted a customer.
From the system?
Oh,
From
my
the system.
God.
So I, did a live production erase of that specific, we call them orgs, an org ID. And it was a mistake, and I immediately informed my boss and was profusely apologetic. And then I happened to run into the CEO in the elevator, and I decided to tell him that I had made a mistake. And I used more colorful language than that, but I accepted accountability for it, and I wanted to demonstrate that I could take responsibility for my mess ups because I had seen people not do that, and I didn't want to be part of that crowd.
So what the message is, if you screw up, acknowledge it right away. Don't put it under the rug, and tell the people who are responsible for you that you will take responsibility to fix it. Everyone doesn't do everything perfectly, and you're remorseful as hell, but you're going to make it work.
Yes.
Does that help you a little bit?
Yes, it definitely does.
Thank you for calling, and best of good luck in your career. Take care. You want to ask another question? Of course, you can ask another one. We have a few minutes left.
One. Yeah. How does she get along, or what helps her to get along with the people that she may have to work with?
So I'm very lucky in the crowd that I've gotten to work with. There have been several people over the years who've been exceptionally difficult, but on the whole, everyone that I've had the pleasure of working with has been exceptionally bright, very friendly, very open, and very much like me. And that's probably a little bit by design, by hiring us all, but I always try to find some common ground with the people that I work with.
So a common goal, good.
Either that or a common background. You know, are we parents? Did we grow up around here? Do we have divorced parents? Did we go to San Jose State? Did we like our education? Do we have an interest that is common? You know, do we like painting? Do we like horseback
So find
riding?
a common connection.
Find any common thread, especially with people who drive you crazy.
Do you think it's gender related?
No.
Okay. Naziba, does that help you?
Yes, that's really very helpful.
Well, I
because
appreciate
sometimes I have issues
your
with
good
that.
questions, and I'm glad they came up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Best of good luck. I think that was a good message, and especially on the first job, because you may not know that when you're entering the work world.
That's right. And you never know what bridge you're going to burn by
Doing something, right?
yeah, acting dumb.
Let's get back to the advice. We have a few more minutes, maybe 1 minute to give some clever advice. Know the essentials, know how you're being measured. What else?
And stick to it. Really respect your boundaries, and don't think that working longer hours means it's not the same to be a high value employee measured by the hours that you work. You are measured by the quality of the work that you do, not the quantity.
Perfect advice. I want to tell everyone that we're back again on October 17th. Our series on first jobs continues, and we're having a college senior, Bryce Borodenko, who's going to come talk about his internship, which is his first job. Thank you very much. Good luck, and we'll see everyone on the 31st.